chats and all that other good shit. I just seen Smart Poker.
Live chat.
Yeah, man.
Participants are popping out chat. I'd hope pop out chat. Join
Pop
chat.
out chat.
Is everybody in?
Yeah, man.
Hope
What's good?
I think everybody's in. Seems to me that everybody's in.
But are they in live chat? That's the question. What's up, Blue Kiss? Cheers, Smart Poker. I just seen you on the other show.
The other show. Shout out to Prohibition.
Shout out to Prohibition. Uncle Rick and Prohibition over there.
Prior to our show here.
Yeah,
man. Live and
cheers, Weed Nerd.
We were
good guest. It's a good guest over there. Good shit. Cheers, Kingfisher. Crispy. What's going on?
It's like the old days, right man. Weed Nerd DWC was the guest over on Prohibition this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Give that show a like, follow, subscribe to their content. Good show going on over there.
Yeah, man.
They discuss all things Prohibition. You know, one thing that my little takeaway that I caught there towards the end of the show is they said that one thing that we all have in common is Prohibition. We all have that in common, and that is very true. And I think we all of us that are in using cannabis, using these mind manifesting medicines, whatever you want to call them, entheogens, psychedelics. Hell, even if you grow yourself some mint, you know, or whatever it is, natural plants, you know, whatever it might be, you know, we're all under some sort of a persecution from the higher ups on how to grow our own medicine. And even if you don't think that we have it with our normal foods and vegetables, we do. You know, there's restrictions on water storage, there's restrictions on garden sizes and things like that. So
plant counts and shit. Yeah.
Yep.
I just want to say cheers to Mary Jane, High and Fly, DP, Jeffro. Everybody's rolling in now. We're just getting started here.
Now.
Yeah, man.
That is a cranking.
And the dumbest one of those rules of them all is not being able to grow food on your lawn, like actually have grass. I think that's
it's just fucking goofy.
And sometimes it's not only an association. Sometimes it's just an association, right? And so you have like a bunch of neighbors that kind of vote on that kind of stuff. But sometimes it's actual township and city ordinances that are against that kind of stuff. And that can be very restricting, especially nowadays. I think that a lot of those older laws that were meant to keep the visual aesthetics, you know, pleasing, you know, have yourself some sod, or you have to have grass, or all that stuff. We use a lot of water on grass. A lot of people use fertilizers and things like that. And we're just seeing that's the unsustainability of it, you know. There's not a lot of abundance when you're growing grass. You know, you might as well. You can grow biomass. Biomass is great. Just before we get into the topic, while we're letting everybody roll in.
Yes, what is our topic this evening?
Well, this topic is how to change your mind. And that's,
I love this one.
That's not coining anything that I'm saying. I want to coin Micheal Pollan's quote, "How to change your mind." We'll get into that momentarily. There is a new Netflix documentary that has just been released within the last week or so. It's kind of been advertised a little bit, and it's kind of the talk of the entheogen movement. This novel came out back, 2018, maybe 2019, something like that. The novel's called How to Change Your Mind. Since I do most of my reading via audio book, I sourced my copy through Audible on Amazon, and I listened to it while I was doing some garden work, and it was fantastic. A lot of takeaways I'd love to get into, but if you don't have the patience to even listen to an audiobook, or you don't have Audible and you don't want to pay to subscribe or any of that stuff, or purchase the audiobook, if you have a Netflix subscription, most of us have that, you can catch that on Netflix. So I'm sure it will eventually be available on YouTube. There's dozens of podcasts, like we were talking. Joe Rogan is where I first, I believe, caught Micheal Pollan. I think he has a 2018 podcast where he discusses his book with Joe Rogan. That's a great one. It goes into great detail. But we'll get into all of that. I'll let everybody kind of show up here for a minute. On the the earth science side of things, right? Kind of talk about, speaking of longevity, sustainability, and things like that. Dr. Lang Ingham and the Soil Food Web Network or something like that has been hosting seminars almost weekly. And let me pull up in my history. I got on their email list or whatever it is to get these, updates for whenever these are going to happen. So I'd highly suggest, if any of you are into, I don't know, regenerative agriculture, cannabis sustainability, microbe farming, any of that kind of stuff, you might want to take a look at some of the really cool stuff that Dr.
Nutrient cycling
is putting together. She's getting some very, very important people together from all over the globe, famous doctors from India who are pushing soil reconditioning and things like that, basically trying to regenerate soil health. We talk a lot about mental health on the show. We talk a lot about physical health, wellness through the use of plants, medicine, plant medicines and theogens and things like that. Without healthy soil, none of these plants can thrive. Without healthy soil, believe it or not, our human biome can't thrive. We're at a point now where in just a mere 100 years, agriculture, almost solely agriculture alone, like we could say automobiles, we could say factories, we could include all of these other things, but almost farming single-handedly has put a huge destructive force on our earth, through our soils, through our waters.
I get something to chime in with that, Red.
Please do.
I've been, here's the thing, whatever else you want to call it, I have fibromyalgia, which a lot of people have like preconceived notions about. Some people think it's fake, some people think it's people just fucking playing up and shit. And it's pretty interesting because the research over the last 4 years with that has been all about the microbiome of the gut, and how people that have fibromyalgia issues have an issue with their microbiome in their gut. And that this is clearly there's also links to Parkinson's disease through the stomach and everything else. So I think you're really nailing it down when you're saying over the last 100 years that the food is not nearly as nutritious. And the balanced diet is a thing of the past, man. It's preservatives up the fucking ass, sugars.
Yeah. And we use these terms, processed. When the reality is, the word that we should be using is oh shit, it starts with the I. Fuck. Okay, anyway, I'll come back to that. But the food system, not only like, you might think you're eating healthy by sourcing fruits and vegetables, I don't know, cage-free eggs and all these other things on the grocery store shelf, but where they're being sourced, how they're being grown, the I don't want to use the term commercial agriculture, the conventional system of agriculture that is being used is high method fertigation. And what happens is the ground, the soil, the biology that is beneath our feet, that is in the ground, dies, because there's this misconception that all plants kind of have the same roots or something, and they all use the same minerals, and that all plants are in competition for water, and that there needs to be a whole foot in between every plant. That's not how nature works. If you walk into a forest, if you walk into a prairie, a grassland, plants are competing with themselves. There's a vast diversity of biology, microbes, everything. When we take 100 acres or 1,000 acres, or we get into the hectare term, and we plow it all and we destroy, square miles worth of biology, and then on top of that we throw chemical fertilizers. I'm going to use the terms chemicals, rather than the terms like inorganic or anything like that. Chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, And nowadays, with the necessity to kind of grow GMO crops, there's a good and a bad to GMO crops. The good being, hey, maybe you don't have to use a herbicide, but the bad being, hey, the herbicide's already tied up within the crop, right? It's already inside of it. You can eat vegetables now and still get sick because you're not just eating vegetables, you're eating glyphosates now. One of the largest leading causes of, in theory, of autism, cancer, and a whole plethora of things.
What about autoimmune diseases?
Autoimmune diseases.
That's what
diabetes and all these other things.
It's a big umbrella for sure.
Like I wasn't born with it or anything, but I had a bronchitis and it triggered it in my body. I don't know about that. I had bronchitis a lot.
Yeah.
But it's got to be from the food, man.
That real fast.
I was fine until I was probably 25 or 26. And then it just slowly and then not so slowly escalated. So like I've been dealing with my neck all fucking day, man. So between using a topical, between using I was doing dabs earlier, man. Since I'm not on camera and I can cough to my heart's content and fucking tear up and all that good shit. So
the Soil Food Web School, I think, is what it's called. Let me see here. Soil Food Web School is the name. I just want to give a shout out to this channel because it's hosted mainly with Dr. Elaine Ingham. And if those that don't know, back in the 80s, Dr. Elaine Ingham did her doctorate on soil science. And she's a microbiologist. And in her doctorate, she kind of discovered the soil food web. She discovered that fungi and bacteria feed small nematodes and protozoa, and the protozoa and the nematodes feed the arthropods and the bugs. Okay, and the bugs feed the micro fauna, which would be mice and things like that, which inevitably
it all breaks down, man.
Fauna, which inevitably feed us, right? And it all breaks down. And what's going on is when you have something like a piece of wood or a plant that's died,
a carbon source.
A carbon source is what we are, all carbon life. The idea of the soil food web is to sequester this carbon, is to remove the carbon from us and to put it into something else, like a plant. So what happens is what first attacks the carbon source, the living biology, is fungi and bacteria. We all know this. You get an infection, a skin, a bacterial infection. That's nature's way of kind of eating you slightly, kind of trying to get you to compost. And what ends up happening is we can either then increase our immunities and fight it, or we can get worse and succumb to that. And when we succumb to that, bacteria and fungi and other pathogens take over the living organism and it dies. And then the fungi begin to consume it further. And what will happen is it will begin to break down waste and it will expel waste. We eat and we have waste. The bacteria does just the same. What happens then is their waste could be plant available, but it's not quite plant available yet. What happens is the nematodes and the protozoa come along, they consume this waste and they make it plant available through their waste. And the cycle just goes on. The worms come through. That's why worm castings are plant available, because it's already kind of like something that's been digested a couple times. They're actually digesting the protozoa and they're digesting the fungi and the bacteria that's already partially decomposed this, and then it becomes plant available. Well, the plant available minerals and microbes, well, that becomes available for us to mineralize our bodies with. And we don't just eat something and it automatically becomes a part of our bone, right? We can't just eat plant matter and it becomes bone. We have to metabolize it. We have to go through all the processes in our bodies.
True, but one of the problems is I mean, I'm not trying to be funny here, but let's say that you have IBS or IBD. or any one of those things where your body literally passes things before it's able to yank all the good stuff, the minerals, the nutrients, and everything else. You're voiding that before your body ever has a chance to try to recuperate some of those vitamins and minerals, and it can become very, very quickly a
That's
bad
if
situation.
the food even has the vitamins and minerals that it should have. A lot of these food or a lot of these fruits and vegetables are just full of water weight. I mean, they're not nutrient dense. You're not growing your own, or you have like an organic farm, you're probably not getting. I don't remember who said it, but they said chat, like our grandparents or whatever, we have to eat like 4 times the amount of vegetables as them to get the same amount of mineral density.
Absolutely. And there's other misconceptions that we were kind of taught in the American school system and everything like that. I am sure it could also be taught other parts of the world, but we were taught the food pyramid, which link
the food pyramid. I see a textbook in my mind.
Oh my goodness. Remember, there's breads and all kind of stuff lined out on the bottom, the grain and the bread down there, and then you got to have the fruits and the veggies, and then you got to, and then a small little cap on top is like the dairy or the sugar or whatever it is. But they always link. I'm going to sidebar this real fast because I think it's strange. Many people group egg with dairy. They say that's dairy. It has eggs in it. I said, no, eggs is not. I used to have a thing with my lactose intolerance, and I would order mayonnaise, and I would say I can't have any dairy, and I wouldn't get mayonnaise, and I'd order a side of mayonnaise, and they go, I thought you couldn't have dairy. I go, yeah, there's no dairy in mayonnaise. It's eggs and oil. And they go, oh, well, there's eggs. Egg is not dairy. Dairy is from a cow.
Dairy is a cow. It doesn't have feathers or wings
or
a beak.
And so the reason that my thought on this is the reason that most people think this is because of the food pyramid, because there is that link of eggs and milk and.
Nah, I think people are just dumb, bro. I don't think they have that kind of photo recall to say it was in the bottom quadrant. I'm telling you.
Probably
that's how I remember it.
Well, here's the other thing. The other thing is I go to Sam's Club, and I actually took a picture of this because part of me wants to create a meme out of this. There's a Sam's Club. There's the giant room that contains the giant cold storage room, and the sign on it says dairy. Well, they have the butter and the milk and everything in there, and then it's the dairy closet, but there's a whole wall of eggs. So it's kind of like a cultural conditioning type of a thing. Like people really don't know because there's nobody telling them anything, the actual information. They're just saying, we're just gonna put this under a broad spectrum of ingredients, right?
What bothers me is all of the antibiotics and the fucking steroids and shit that you see. Like, I worked in a kitchen for years, and chicken breast isn't supposed to be that fucking big, guys. And it's not supposed to have all those white striations all along the whole thing.
Well, now you talk about the colitis, and you talk about the Crohn's and IBS, and
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if there are links between, the antibiotics and all of the hormones and everything that is in the food, and the sodium levels, whatever it might be, saline in the chicken, and just all of that stuff, and links to those things, because a lot of that stuff may be difficult to digest. Maybe there's stuff being put in our food that is indigestible and it's fucking.
You mean microplastics?
That too. Talk about that one. Wow, but
so many things.
Not to be fatalistic, or
one would call it a litany of things. Yeah,
and it's only getting worse. It's not getting any better. There's only more people are just. Born right, the population's rising, more people throwing McDonald's cups out the window and straws and wrappers and shit, whatever. But individually, one at a time, we can focus on doing something, right? Have a garden, plant a garden. You don't have a garden, maybe your parents have some land, maybe you can. The idea is just to slowly restore small sections of land, because what happens is all of this compaction, all of the it's not just a concrete wasteland where there's real concrete. It's literally a concrete wasteland where there's grass, where there is any of the clay. It's so compact, it's so dead, lacking microorganisms that when it does rain, the water doesn't absorb into our ground. The water rolls off of the ground, and that's why we have so much erosion. We have tens of 20 to 50 feet worth of depth of erosion across our Midwestern plains because the ground does not absorb the water. The water rolls off the ground as if it were concrete because the ground is so compacted, so lacking of life that's what it does. So if we just have maybe a few hundred square feet in our backyard, but if we can take that little small section, allow the rainwater to actually absorb into the ground, we can at least fill up small portions of our aquifer, little plots at a time, one person at a time. It doesn't have to be hectares of farmland. It would be great if it was and we could get there, but just one little plot at a time is all it takes. It's not to think that it's, I don't want to use any political terms like climate change or anything like that. The Earth's going to go through natural.
Says it anyway.
We're gonna go through natural warming and coolings. It's just going to happen. We just have to be.
Well, okay. Let's say this. Let's say that you live in a concrete jungle and you don't have any fucking grass to speak of, and there's nothing you can do. Well, what you can do is you can be passive about it. You can simply support the companies that are doing things the way that you want them to be done, things that are done responsibly. Sometimes you just have to vote with your choices, as far as, dietary things and other stuff. None of us are getting any younger, man.
The Dust Bowl is exactly what I'm referring to. Dust Bowl,
Oklahoma, 1930s.
The entire, and then on to some. I mean, we see it here in the Midwest also. I mean, that's the big thing. It's not wind is blowing and eroding the land. It's the land is so dead that when it rains, and yes, when the wind blows,
there's no roots to hold anything.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no roots and there's no life. So what it is it's all just silt, clay, sand, silt, and clay. It's a desert. It becomes just desertified. So
what was that word?
Desertified.
Desertification. Desertification.
There we go.
Desertification.
There we go.
It becomes desertification. Maybe. Yeah.
That stuff isn't
desert from desertification. Okay. The process of desertification. It is. I like desertified, so we're gonna use that. And
it's your show, buddy. You can call it whatever you want to. We're going to roll.
What it is, it's a lack. Well, I'm going to simplify because I'm moving fast. I'm talking fast. I don't want to confuse. It's a lack of organic material, and that's it. It's a lack of maybe some dead grass clippings. It's a lack of maybe some dead leaf mulch. Maybe all of the leaf clippings have been sent to the city for years and years and years, and they really just needed to be chopped up and scattered across the yard and left to decompose. What happens is the following year the grass comes up and all that shit just kind of.
You know what it is, Red? Spartan explained something to me a really long fucking time ago. Shout out to Spartan Grown. We were talking about the 4x8 raised bed that I had, and he was like, "Bro, you can't just keep taking things out of the soil." And then it just kind of made sense to me. So I started thinking in terms of like, okay, what am I putting in here? So, you can look at all your down to earth boxes and you can do the math and you can figure out weights and all that stuff. But it's just really a matter of, okay, if I'm constantly pulling things out, because I'm going to swerve this over and take it back over to the prohibition show they were talking about there, how everyone would have you believe that growing organically is just as simple as 1, 2, 3. And, so there becomes this almost a misunderstanding on how things work with it, Abolished was saying, get yourself some Coco Loco and butt chug that bitch and then get a hold of me after 90 days and we'll give you some shit to throw it back in there. Speaking about the problem with the hard pan soil where the water is just shedding right off of it and not soaking in, that's my chance to plug soap knots. I've noticed a humongous fucking difference in my outdoor plants that are still vegging because I've been just spraying them with soap nuts and water every other day. This shit looks fucking happy. There's no bugs hanging around, nothing else. So it's using, a lot of times what it comes down to is I am using plants to feed myself or, make a smoke supply.
Yes.
So if I'm constantly just pulling shit out and I'm never putting things back in there, the soil is going to become depleted. One of the big issues is like phosphorus. They say there's a finite amount of phosphorus, and when that's gone, it's going to become a problem.
People got to also remember that clay's not like useless. From what I understand, it's just
Clay
a
has
ton of
nutrients.
yeah, it's just inaccessible to normal plant roots. But like we were saying, if you have that topsoil, you have a little bit of humic layer, then you have your microbe, you have your fungi. Fungi can actually mine that stuff and
Plant
bring it
those
up to the
fucking those
plants.
radishes, bro. Just plant the fucking shit ton of radishes to
Yeah.
was that daikons to break all that up?
Now, one of the most interesting things that I heard from Dr. Lanningham herself. Now, this is I got a chance to go to the regenerative conference. This was in 2019 here at Grow Green here in Michigan. 2019, I went to the regenerative conference, and Dr. Lanningham got to speak via Zoom and take some questions and stuff. And one of the things that she mentioned now this is going to be very difficult to fathom. Okay, so you have to kind of understand the where I'm going with this. In a teaspoon, let's just say a cup. Let's say a cup because that's a lot. I think she used the term teaspoon, but let's just say a cup. In a cup of sand, a cup of clay, a cup of silt, a cup of
It was a teaspoon.
A teaspoon. In a teaspoon of sand, there's enough minerals, okay, to grow an entire acre of plants. Whatever the plants are, doesn't matter because they all require the same minerals, just in different quantities, right? But there's enough minerals in a little teaspoon of sand, okay? They're bound up in the form of solid geology, right? They're bound up in the form of little rocks and little pebbles and things like that. They're not plant available. If you were to take that sand and pulverize it and maybe turn it into a vapor or something, right, and spread it across an acre, you could grow a whole acre worth of plants. So yeah, a whole acre. What we have,
We've got all kinds of crazy transformation and fucking. Well, we just make philosopher's stone while we're at it, Red.
This is the thing. The thing is that there's enough minerals. The point is that there's enough minerals there. The in the weight, in the mass of that, there's enough density mass. There's enough mineral mass in that little bit to feed that many plants in their season. Sequestering those minerals is the difficult part. So what we have is we have a whole field of sand, right? And you put plants in there, they still can't get the minerals out of it. You still need something to get the minerals out. Now, what conventional farmers do is they take salt-based fertilizers and minerals, and they directly feed the plants, and it bonds to the roots. And through a process of ionization, negative and positive charge and ions, the plants uptake those unnaturally. They just uptake them, because we kind of force them to do it, and they're photosynthesizing.
There's like a root exudate, and that's what that goes out. And then if there's anything alive in the soil, you're hyphae. I was making the joke the other show, and it fell flatter than fucking.
Well, that'll have that. That's
o'clock.
Into the life. Now you're on the life side. Now you're on the good side of things.
Right. The difference between dirt and soil, one's alive and one's inert. Yeah.
Now if we're actually adding, you got all that sand in there. Now if you throw in some
mycorrhizae in there,
fungi,
yep, some microbes, you're good.
The bugs, that shit might just show up. If you just throw a pile of leaves down, that shit might just show up. What ends up happening is you can't see it, you can't even taste it, but there's microbes in the air. And then on every dust particle, they're riding along, man. And if you have yourself just a pile of leaves, they'll collect those microbes. They'll collect those. You hear the term IMO, indigenous microorganisms. They collect it. You can put a cup of water out. You can put whatever you want out there.
I like the K&F way, where you take the rice.
Take some rice.
Yeah, you take it outside.
You could let the rice
paper towel
mold. Let the rice just sit there and mold. What that is that's your local air bacteria.
Bury that under your soil or your forest.
Yep.
All the good shit will come to it.
Scatter it across your garden bed, or better yet, take it and brew it into a tea and inoculate it and grow it, right? We talk about growing mushrooms. You do this like inoculating a substrate.
Mushrooms eat plastic.
So try inoculating a tea of water, with a little bit of sugar and a little bit of this natural IMO. And then all of a sudden you can put it all across your whole garden, your deserted sandy garden, whatever you have.
Gilligan's Island of a garden.
Yep. Throw some leaves down and then throw this indigenous micro, or even if you can't get your own indigenous, your buddy's got a worm bin or some, compost, or you can make some compost. Just start getting, even if you're making compost, you're getting indigenous microorganisms anyways. So that's the best way to do it. And that's your local stuff. Or you could go out, if you got the money, go buy biology, go buy some Tribus, buy some Mammoth P, buy some Recharge, buy all of these, Great White, buy any of that shit. Put that in the water and put that out in your yard. That adds life and biology. And then if you add some leaf for grass clippings, it'll be able to break it down, and it'll feed your plants for you. You don't need the salt-based fertilizers. It's a difficult conversation to have when people are like, what fertilizers are you using? And I tell them I'm not using any. And then they look at me very confused, like, why are your plants so big? Why is your garden so lush and green? Why is it so green? I haven't fertilized my yard ever. It's 10 years strong. And these beds that Becca grew all of this brassicas in, these broccolis are like 5 feet tall, leaves the size of children.
But you're doing like chopping drops and shit at the end of the year, right? So you're bringing all that stock materials going back in and breaking down.
And there's a give and a take to no-till, chop and drop. We're finding strongly this year that we have a fungus, some sort of I don't want to call it fusarium, but it's a stem rot that's occurring in our sunflowers. And what ends up happening is, because of chop and drop, if you have some pathogen and you decompose it in your soil, well, it might just live in your soil for 3 to 5 to 7 years, depending on what it is. So there are those give and takes. But if you come back through with a whole bunch of grass clippings and mulch and compost and you bury that shit, you shouldn't have an issue. Plant health, you shouldn't have an issue. What we have is some iffy plants that are just so heavy. Maybe we turn the sprinkler on.
Iffy?
Yeah, we got a couple iffy plants back there. Well, we had a few snap. We had a couple sunflowers snap in half. This is
how much are they growing in a week though? Like, are they getting like a foot taller in a week?
In a week, yeah. Sunflowers are getting they're about that phase. They're getting about a foot a week. They're starting to.
How tall are they, Becca?
Super early.
Taller than us.
Taller than you guys? Okay.
Some are tall.
6-footers.
We planted some later in the season that are still on the growing side of things.
They're almost all volunteers.
Most of the volunteers. We're finding a couple of areas though that are having these little issues, and there seem to be the more shaded areas. So I think it has something to do with a cooler temperature, more moisture, microclimate thing that we're getting this stem rot. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of those ones with the stem rot. We're going to compost that in a different area that we're not going to grow any sunflowers, or actually peas, beans, and things like that will also suffer from the same stem rot. And we're not going to grow any of that shit either out of this compost or in the area where we're making this compost. I don't want to take anything off site. I want to keep all my carbon on site, whether it has a virus, I'm going to keep it on site, and I'm just going to work with it as I'm able. I'm going to isolate it. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to move the sunflower crop next season, still grow sunflowers in that crop, and obviously just try to keep the abundance of it, through just numbers. We're bound to have many successful sunflowers, maybe a couple will succumb to the pathogen, right? But the idea is to get more volunteers the following year that will be maybe resistant to this pathogen.
I wonder if you were to dig where those are at the end of the season. I think to myself, that if something grows really, really fucking tall, then it should have some sort of a similar idea going on with its root zone. So I wonder if it's breaking up compacted soil, and if you could move the whole posse next year to a different spot that's fucking shitty, then go back through, wipe out any early volunteers you get in the old spot, but then plant in there new shit if it's like tilled up the soil.
Yeah, my guess is that it's pulling a lot of it's sequestering carbon is the big thing that sunflowers hold is carbon, or not, I'm sorry, calcium. Calcium stalks are a high
calcium stalks.
Yeah, sunflower stalks are a high source of calcium. And so just by that, I think that they're moving a lot of calcium. My guess is because of their height, their roots go either wide or really deep. Well, obviously one or the other, but probably a little bit of both. According to Dr. Lang Ingham, now you guys can question this on your own or look this up or, fact check me or whatever. Corn roots will travel to a depth of about 12 to 17 feet deep, not inches. Think of that. Corn, grasses. She has grasses, and I've seen these photos. Grasses with roots the same length. Now, you go in your backyard and you pull a grass, you might get 6 inches, 8 inches tops, if you got really, really good soil. What she's doing is because of all of this microbiology work that she's doing with these soils, she's getting her compaction layer to disappear, I guess, so far that the roots are able to penetrate the ground, the rock, and go that deep. And when she does a side-by-side, the roots, through many, many years of working these soils, not tilling, not breaking them up, not do anything like that, these roots are getting deeper and deeper and deeper. It's amazing seeing people stand and hold a grass way up here and the roots touch the ground.
We've been to old man's house before, and he's told me himself that's been a farm for well over 100 years, probably closer to 120 years. And I mean, that shit just grows fucking crazy out at his place, man.
Think about
that soil is sweet.
Think about the efficiency of that. Think about how cold it is 5 feet down. Think about the water table where you are if you live in Michigan. I know where we were in southeast Michigan, it's a little bit lower elevation. We're hitting water if you dig 3 feet down.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure here. Yeah. I'm right by the lake, though.
You get a little further in. I mean, you might hit water 5-10 feet down, something like that. But if your roots are going 4, 5, 10 feet down, they're hitting water. You don't ever have to. I mean, they're gonna feed. They're gonna hold the water, and then the top roots are gonna get the feeding. And if you're doing it right and you're keeping your soils covered, your bugs and everything will keep it all moist, so your top roots can still get moisture. In the morning, there's the dew effect and all of that stuff that goes on. As long as you have your soil covered, it stays relatively moist. The main areas that we have to water in our garden are our pots, anything that's above ground, and any of the areas that aren't fully covered with a nice mulch layer of grass clippings or cover crop. Cover crop's huge. It keeps the ground so moist.
It's helping my pots tremendously, bro. And I just whacked it all down and took it down to about 1 inch so that I'm not going to have anything, too goofy going on. I showed off some pictures today. I do want to give a special shout out to 2020 Mendocino Genetics. Adam over there hooked me up with a lot of their releases from this year, their new feminized lines. He sent me those September Rains ones, which is cool because those ones are supposed to finish in late September for our geographical area. I know this may be too late for Uncle Rick to be up to talk geography, but it's kind of cool, man. Everything out there is looking really, really happy. So I've got Smell of Success, Something Good, Snow G. What the fuck else do I have? Humboldt Afghani. I have the Girl Crush F2 is looking really, really nice. And the Whiskey Zulu Auto and Zulu. Everybody's looking happy. Even my Run Tito has finally caught up with the rest of them. So I still got a couple weeks.
Going to have a buffet in October.
Was that Whiskey Zulu have is that like some old like Appalachian / African genetics? Something like that.
I wish I knew where my fucking book was that has all the genetics in it. I think it was watermelon Skittles and something cross, if I'm not mistaken. That's what made me look at it. So, Skittles may be a fucking real hypey strain from a few years ago, but you got to admit the flavor on it was really fucking good.
Don't make me share that meme I made the other day still about how I am about hyper strains.
Hey, you know what? Shout out to Doc Dankenstein because my dude used to grow some fucking fire shit. Ooh. that Zuki's, Skittles and cookies, that was a real nice one. I just want to say
think I
shout
like
out to
that
everybody in chat. We do have a topic tonight that we haven't even swerved or careened towards yet. So
Yeah.
Becca's tucking in with some food.
Can I tell
She's
you?
ready.
DOG, so we like cover our whole bed in blankets, right? So he doesn't sleep on our stuff.
Right.
And
On our nice sheets.
he
Nice
moved
stuff.
them, of course, and I heard something and I was like, oh, he's moving around, and he
doing it.
just had laid down right on
Oh
both
my
of our
God.
pillows.
Oh, gooch in the pillows.
Yeah.
Gooch in the pillows. That's exactly what I was thinking, Red. You beat me to it this time, Jinx.
He's such
Like an
trouble.
asshole.
I just
Shout out to Uncle Rick. He is still with us this evening.
Cheers. Let's
All right.
Jeopardy's still on out his way, so he's still early. It's okay.
haven't
So this topic, Red. This topic we got.
Let's
We
get
have
into.
a topic.
I think we touched on all that good gut health stuff.
Right.
But long story short, with all of that stuff, man, we will get into this topic. Long story short, with all of that stuff, all those chemicals, all that bad stuff, all that death, you know, it kind of equates on our health, because we're a big part of this planet also, and you don't see it a lot because a lot of us live in subdivisions. We hear lawnmowers, and we hear traffic, and then we walk outside, we go to grocery stores. We don't see all of the agriculture around us, but it's everywhere. We see it everywhere in Michigan. So what was I was just
What
thinking,
was the topic again?
well, no, I got the topic.
We have a topic.
I had something in my head. I've done it like 2 or 3
Okay,
times.
okay.
Anyways, I
Bruce
guess
Hornsby, baby. Bruce
that's-
Hornsby.
that's so important. We'll come back to that stuff. Becca threw me off with the DOG stuff. I think that's
Yeah, it's all Becca's fault. Exactly.
No, it
It's
isn't.
all her
I
fault.
think it's funny. DOG's hilarious. He kicked himself out. I thought she was going to tell a story about him kicking himself out of bed this morning, which
Just fall out.
he like does this thing where he like kicks back leg. He'll sometimes will kick me in the face, and he got him this time because he kicked, but he like kicked off of me, and
He
kicked
parkoured under the floor.
right off the bed. Oh, dude, right off the bed. He poor guy, head first, right off the bed.
That's instant karma, Red. That's what you get for kicking, motherfucker.
Yeah. I just
Keep your kicks to yourself. You're a guest up here. Don't get all cozy, man.
big dog to go falling off the bed. He got us up quick.
Nobody did poke some more
He
finger
put some holes in our sheets.
new ones
So,
just now.
No, dude.
the sheets.
Damn.
I'm just
Fuck
trying
your
to
sheets.
sheets.
We need to get DOG some booties or something. Man.
Yeah, it's a little. He needs nails cut. Is what he needs.
Some dog slippers. Well, you got to do him for nails. Here's a long callback to the days of DOG and nail clippings. He needs to get the A-team treatment, the Mr. T treatment. Red's got to come up to him with like 2 sandwiches and be like, DOG, here, take this sandwich. And he's going to go, nah, Red, I know this trick. I ain't going to get on no plane, Red. So then what happens? He says he wants Red sandwich. So then DOG eats Red sandwich instead of his and makes Red eat DOG's sandwich. Therefore, and thereby, that's what knocks DOG out. So that Daddy Red can help him take his ass to the fucking vet so that they can clip his talons off. That's how that goes down.
Yeah, dude, it's too.
Yeah, man.
Hassle. I got to take him to the vet. They got to knock his ass out. I mean, clip his nail.
He said, I pity the nail.
Pity the nail.
Luckily,
Mama
they
Red's able to.
use
get
an
him while he's asleep.
antidepressant to.
Oh, they gave him a little mood boost too?
No, it's
So he
one
was
that
all
I
happy?
used to take.
Oh,
But we got
tell him to
lots-
get out of your stash, man.
we got lots
What's it
of
called?
Trazodone.
Yeah, they give dogs.
Trazodone.
They give dogs trazodone.
It's an
also.
antidepressant that like knocks you out.
Mhm.
So they use it as a
It's definitely when you take it nighttime and not in the morning.
tranquilizer for your pet. You have some trazodone laying around. You can use your tranquilizer for your pet.
Or a blowgun.
Yeah.
Your pet, not you guys.
I
So
Yeah.
abolished, what's going on your way?
never get to that thought, so abolish judo.
Not too much, you guys. Actually, today I went out and I started to add to my fish tank I've been building over the last month, taking in donations and grabbing little things here and there. Got me a little pea fluffer. Love those guys.
Oh,
But yeah, other than that, I've been having an interesting few weeks. I've told you guys, I haven't told Chad, but I haven't taken any mushrooms in I'd say probably a good month. I haven't had any kind of like psychedelic dose other than my first doses or micros of Al at the show. And say it's been kind of enlightening. And that's some of the reason why I missed some of the shows this month is because when I'm doing those things, I'm not always in the, I guess, the best mindset. Like I don't want to be on here if I'm not giving you guys my all or I'm not in a positive mindset. So I've been doing a lot of inner self work and mind work like that, and detoxing from many things, electronics, cannabis, mushrooms, and seeing how I handle things. It's
What do you
been
think?
enlightening. It's
Have
I've
you been
gotten to the
dreaming
point where
more?
no, I haven't took a long enough break from cannabis for the dreams to come back. The only times I really dream are when I take heavy doses of mushrooms. But I think it's worked out pretty well because I've realized that I don't have to use the psychedelics as a crutch when I have some kind of trigger or PTSD episode or anything like that. I can manage those things on my own, which is really important because you're not always in a place where you can go run and take a eighth of mushrooms.
Mhm.
Like you really have to have a free night, and probably, at least for me, I have to have a free next day.
I work myself into it. I'll start thinking about it. Like I've been thinking about this one thing and I'm like, okay, so the stars have to align just right. You know what I mean? I don't want to have it where they got the contractors coming over early as shit and I'm up until 5:30 in the morning. That's going to suck. But I think that's one of the good points to make about is that you don't need to use, especially like your larger doses. You don't need to do those quite so frequently. I've my entire time as a fucking psychonaut, I take more now than I ever have at any point in my life because of both availability and trying a new thing with the microdosing, which I would report after a good solid 30 days and not having any macro doses in between, that I can report back that I find that I'm more mentally unflappable. So, like, you know what that means, right? It's like, so information comes in, instead of having like a reaction to it that's, say, negative, I'm able to take the information in and be like, oh, okay, cool. And then, like, whatever the situation is, let's say that it has to do with someone else or a situation, I find that I have more empathy for them and for the situation. And it's just really, really been nice. But now I'm like, do I want to take a macrodose to try to break this up, or do I want to just keep riding this out?
I'm glad I don't have to explain the effects for me because you just explained them. That's pretty much how I don't feel like I need to take macro doses unless I'm wanting to have
A macro experience?
the visuals, unless I like want to actually like learn something, have like a definite purpose, even if that purpose is recreational, something like that, but for there to be some sort of an intention. But yeah, few and far between, right?
I'm all for recreational usage as well. I don't want to come off as some kind of prude or anything, because I've used them recreationally in myself. But I just kind of found that along the way, I also learned some shit. You know what I mean? So I go in on a lark. This is when I was like a lot younger. But then I would have some like heavy thoughts. But see, to me, heavy thoughts aren't a bad trip. Heavy thoughts are just heavy thoughts. Now I can make it into a bad trip if I wanted to like obsess about shit and then like do a bunch of prognostications and trying to figure out, you know, how shit's going to be or how it went or how it was or how it isn't.
Hey man, every tool has a purpose in the tool.
For sure, man. For sure.
Sometimes you want to take the hammer and just flip it a couple times and catch it by the handle.
Sometimes you want to pound things in, and sometimes you want to yank things out, man.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to randomly nail in hammers, and just have fun with it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to nail.
Hammer and nails. I am
Hammer and tongs, right?
I'm like dyslexic vocally.
Wait a minute. What was it? Desertification?
Oh, that's another new word?
Yeah, this is dyslexia of the mouth. Dyslexia vocal.
Collective Mary Jane shout out says definitely trying 30 days of mushrooms if I can tolerate customer service. Yeah, man.
Now, as far as microdosing goes, I mean, taking time off is great. I mean, I don't see any negatives.
No, but if it starts to come back and you start to feel like, man, I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting back to that place. In the past, I may have macrodosed to try to kickstart that shit or hit the reset or whatever. But now it's like, okay, well, how many days has it been since I've actually had my proper dosage for microdose? Like I said, I showed pictures to you guys this week. I think it ends up being a 0.4 that I'm able to get into a 000 capsule, which I'm happy with. It. I took it and I haven't felt any effects from it. As far as like
1/10 of a gram per every
50 pound for 100 pounds.
1/10 of a gram on every 0 of the capsule size.
I come from like the whole thing with like dog training and veterinary shit and Merck manual. So to me, I've always been like, okay, how many milligrams per kilogram? I can do the math.
And
you know what I mean? And that's where it comes down to
of your tolerance level, because you do also regularly take that same amount or higher amounts, right? You take higher amounts.
I'm a dabbler.
So your tolerance has certainly gone up.
You like that, Becca?
I'm just trying to figure out like when do I want to start doing it again? Like I don't like when I stopped doing it, it wasn't a plan to say, hey, I'm gonna stop taking these. It's just one day I got up and I feel like taking it, and it just kind of compounded from there. And I don't plan on like quitting. Like I want to keep doing it because I know the medicinal benefits, but I just have not had a drive to.
Think of it like kind of like a pendulum. I don't mean this from like a bipolar standpoint, but in life, you're going to find that sometimes the pendulum is swinging your way and sometimes it's swinging the other way. In those times in my life, I really wish that I would have had psychedelics more than I had access to try to pull me back towards not like the super good times, but just like give me those middle days, man, where you can say, you know what, for real, I'm alive. And whatever else, I can honestly say to myself that I'm doing my best.
I think this
that's what it comes down to, man.
To segue into that topic, because
I was trying to get us there.
Because I think that what you're like, do you want me to talk you into taking them without me wanting to talk you into something? So here's the thing. I don't want to talk you into taking them, but I feel like having this conversation will somehow come off like I'm going to sound like I'm talking you into it, but I'm not. So,
well, hold on. Let me just, before you go, you're like having a chance to practice integration and using everything you've learned and integrating them into your day to day. And like, I think there'll be a point where you're like, oh, you know what? It might be nice right now to have a microdose, or like, I have a lot to do today. Maybe that'll help me out. Like you'll get to a point where you'll just want a microdose, but
that makes sense.
Until then, you're integrating and using all that you've learned while using those.
And I think
here, Becca, very, very true. Integration.
I love Becca's answer right there. That's way better than what I'm gonna offer up.
We would just talk like 4 times longer, but still not nail it, right? Just keep it real. We know how we are, bro.
My first question is, are you asking for advice on when to dabble into just
macros?
Well, macros, or are you talking about just ingesting it, put it in your body?
Yeah, just general use.
Okay, so general ingestion. This is where I'm gonna sound like I'm the proponent and I'm trying to talk you into it, but I'm not trying to talk you into it. I would say that because of the current studies that are more positive than negative, that the neuroregenesis, the beneficial effects that it has on not only your mind but your body, pain reliever, blood flow, even vitamin D for that matter, that you're taking from a natural supplement. The non-toxicity, it's not neurologically bad. And I mean, let's now bear with me when I say that if you're taking an amount that you don't consciously perceive, okay, you do not consciously perceive this dose,
subperceptible level.
You're taking a subperceptible dose that is non-toxic, not bad for you, and could only be benefiting you.
Could help you with neurogenesis.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to stop there. Okay. And I'm not going to say, would you want to do? So, okay. So now the other thing is now dosing, just taking a dose. Now that's a completely different question there. Is this, are you going to feel this dose? Right. So now in chat, Jay Patrick is asking, how do you know, figure out micro size for someone? This is going to vary with everybody. And Abolish, I can't give you a weight to try, but since you've been free for a whole month, I would suggest getting out your old
super triple digit scale.
The AWS that goes to your double gram, right? It goes to the hundredths of a gram and weigh out 0.05 to 0.07, somewhere in that tiny little bitty range. It might be a half of a small cap, it might be a half of a small stem, but it might only weigh 70 milligrams, 0.07. In that little tiny little bit, 0.05. This is gonna be a tiny. I mean, I'm talking. This is gonna be a smaller.
This is like a fingernail clipping, basically.
You even realize, and you're gonna eat this, and you're going, "What the fuck? I don't feel nothing." What was that? You're gonna smoke a couple doobies, and you're gonna wait for it. But that's the idea. The idea is that it's a non, and so
subperceptible level.
Don't think of it as it's going to do anything, because it's not. You want it to be a non-event. There's not going to be an event. Now go through your dayless route with one of those doses, and then if you feel it, if you don't feel it, whatever. If you feel it, maybe back off your dose. If you're feeling it and you're feeling like, hey man, I feel a little either uncomfortable in my shoes, or you like it and you're like, I dig this dose, everything kind of brightened up a little bit, I got a little bit of energy, I'm for some reason a little more social, whatever, the benefits start coming out, stick at that dose and don't go to the dose that is the 0.2, the 0.3 yet. And I say yet because you might need to get there through tolerance and all this other stuff, or
I have a follow-up question.
I hope my tolerance is
follow-up question, Abolished. Is you are someone who had more than one variety. Did you find that there was any difference for you on a microdose level of which ones you used versus using them on a macro level?
Yeah, I think I've told you guys in the past. For my micros, I would just take caps in a majority of strains, like unless it's like an oversized cap. It's a perfect little micro dose. But penis envy, no. That one time I took a cap, and I swear, man, that felt like I took an eighth. Yeah, it was really dense.
Like I took an eighth.
It ruined me for 2 days.
Okay, all right.
And so maybe if you don't already know the dosage of this new species of mushroom, you pretend that they all have the potency of that.
Here we go. Look,
you
just these are all small,
all that potent. So you cut that dosage in half and cut that dosage in half.
That's a nice job.
Take it down.
Need to get back to just doing the Wollongons. That's Wollongons, isn't it?
No, this is not the Wollongong. I've got those are pre-ground, so those are like super nice. I just opened the fucking jar, and dude, I haven't weighed it, but it's a considerable amount.
I equate that strain to like the sativa mushrooms. Like it's such a pleasant.
I like microdosing it. I really do. And I don't know if it is me just carrying on my positive associations to my macro doses with it, but I find that I have like a brighter sense about me. I find that, like, dude, I have been jamming, just hardcore fucking jamming all fucking day long for months now. And that shit just sets my intention, and blazing all day, working outside, not so much lately. It's a little bit fucking hot. But I really feel like anecdotally, these have helped me immensely over the last just few months. So maybe it can help you as well. I would also add too, from my personal experience, I've talked about this several times before. So if you've been hanging around for a while, you're used to this. But I have always had a hard time sourcing them. I've never had this before, bro. Never. That's fucking insane amount to me, right? I would try to stack eights until I got to the point where I had 7 grams, and I was like, okay, cool. No matter how weak or how strong or how shittily grown these are, this should be enough to kickstart something. And I would do that. This used to be when I worked. So I am a pretty chill person usually, but I don't usually do too much complaining. I just kind of internalize shit. But then I'm one of those people that keeps fucking talking to myself in my head, like, you know what? This is some fucking bullshit, man. So I find that as I started having more and more of those thoughts, that was my first warning sign that I need to start trying to find somebody that has either some paper or some caps, because it's only going to get worse if I don't. So I don't know what led you to try to use these things for yourself, but think of what led you to them. Think of what you wanted from them. And again, I really do think that if you take the time to journal this shit, and I do mean on your phone, you don't have to fucking go to the dollar store and buy a fucking old timey book and shit to write in. But it's just kind of a way to keep it real with yourself when you're keeping in check and setting your intentions, because I think that really does matter. The shit that you think about is the shit that you're going to think about. So if you're really on some negative shit right now, you gotta try to swerve away from that.
And
Well, it started out doing this stuff to heal others, and then it was to try and document and grow every type of mushroom I can get my hands on from all the
Yeah.
corners of the earth.
This is
And
what
then
I showed you
to
today.
healing myself.
That was the Cambodian golds. That's what I had today. That was a 1/2 gram.
very nice. And then don't forget the integration side, like Becca was talking about, because
Can you explain that a little bit for us and what that really
is
means?
that's after your experience, and you kind of take what you may have come across in your experience and you apply it to your life. You apply it to your situation. You apply it to whatever it was that you thought of. And sometimes you don't find answers. Sometimes you come across questions, and that's okay too. Questions are great to come across, because that means that you have more answers to find, and that may come in your day-to-day life, in your normal routine. I still haven't gone down that rabbit hole and taken a dose to where I'm seeing visuals. I have not had a kaleidoscopic dose at all.
I mean, you can, if you go to a certain dose, you can, but that's not necessarily like you don't get an extra badge or a fucking cool kids commemorative t-shirt saying that I took enough of this to have visuals. It's not imperative.
I used to really
practice.
enjoy that, and I chase that, honestly, Skilbo.
But that's what you use paper for, though.
I have this anxiety to where I can't. No, and I mean on paper. I haven't had visuals on paper either. Not that I haven't had the dose, but because I dose so tiny doses, because I have this fear of getting there because of that one time that I blasted off and I thought I was going to,
and that's perfectly okay.
Yep.
A lot of people would be like, well, that's blah, blah, blah. No,
sure.
I listen to a lot of fucking Terrence McKenna. That's another thing that I like to do. And he says that, DMT is one of the things that people love the most. And they'll say, like, what's your favorite drug? And they'll say, well, DMT. I love this stuff. When's the last time you had it? And they'll say 1965, because they didn't need it it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like you got what you were going to get from it.
Sure.
And, you know, these things exist. You can always come back to them. And I think that's one of the things, you know, let's just put it diplomatically. I think a lot of us in chat are of an age that we didn't just recently stumble into psychedelic usage.
Yeah.
And, you know, we all come from different walks of life and try to use these things to help ourselves and, you know, help other people.
I get what you're saying, Red. I'll be honest. Anytime right before I blasted off and all that, I've been absolutely scared and almost wish that I could like sober up and not do this.
Yeah.
And then it just
But
ends up happening.
that pre-anxiety though is kind of like set and setting. Yeah, you see Becca back there. She's
Sometimes
like,
we go to deep places, either in our minds or for mine, it's like these. I feel all these physiological processes going on. My heart beating. I might have a muscle spasm in my chest or something, and I'll start to have a panic attack, thinking that it's the drug. You know. Now I'm more objective to it, and I understand that I didn't take near lethal dose. I have my stuff tested. I know what it is. You know, physiologically, that's not what it is. If it's anything, it's either in my head or I'm having a panic attack. You know, and so now if you just took something that somebody just handed you, then you're definitely going to have a panic attack because you're like, oh shit, what did I take? Fuck, what was this? I have no idea what it was. Is my heart racing? I don't know. Now you know.
it is now. If it wasn't before,
really
it is
start
now.
thinking through the wheels,
Right.
you know. So it's
So
always
you know what my advice for you is, Red?
testing
Is we got to treat this just like the city pool, but not the nasty kind that like other kids are peeing in, but like a super clean city pool where it's got a very gradual thing. We've got the very shallow side and we get used to you where you just kind of keep toeing in the water. So, you know, over a gradual time, if you had this intention, you could get to the point where you say, okay, I want to work my way into a macro dose. I've only ever had my toe in the water. So what you do is whatever your dosage is, you want to work your way up.
So I started doing that exact quite a while ago. The problem is I still have that same, I'll back off the dose or the problem with paper or with L25 is its delivery. It's a 2-hour onset, right? The 2-hour onset means that when you're like, oh, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try like a half a tab and see if that will, you know, and then
I would never chase it. No, I wouldn't chase it.
That's the hard part because
I would never see. That's the thing I've never done is you've always said, well, I'll take this little bit and then I'll take a little bit more and then I'll take a little bit more. And to me, I've always been like the other side of the pendulum. I've always saved up and squirreled away so that I can make sure that when I hit, you know, the fucking the red button, let's go, you know, ignition, all engines are go. I want to make sure that I get where I want to go with it. So
That first feeling from that when it kicked in for me was really, really just like pleasant and peaceful. Like I thought it was like earlier on in the day, but it wasn't until like me and you were sitting there on the hill, Skilbo, Red and Becca took off to go get something to drink or whatever. And
the dead
talking life stuff. And
man,
it just kind of kicked in right there on the hill, like really, really well. It's like, damn.
You know what it is mostly? And maybe I would help myself if I put it into liquid. I think that it is because it's on paper and every dose is, you know, in my mind could be unevenly laid. And I'm thinking, well, this half is different than that half. So what if this half is twice as potent as that half that I took last time? And so what if I'm not just taking a half this time? What if when I double my dose, I'm actually tripling my dose? So that's always going through my head. That's why I always back off and I start so low just to like test the paper to see if it's
okay.
Dose to where.
But do you stay there or do you continue to work it and go to the point where you're like, okay,
I'll work it. But the problem is it's 2 hours later and then 2 hours later and then 2 hours. Next thing you know,
you have to do it like where you
have to have a whole damn dosing or something.
Take a week off. Here's what I would do. Okay. So I would say that you would not have an issue with because you have the same stash I have.
Take a week, take a
take a week in between
A week in
attempts.
between. Oh, yeah.
Attempts.
Yeah.
So you're going to take,
Not tolerant.
let's say we start with a half, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to take a half a dose, and you're going to
More like a quarter dose.
take a half dose, and you're going to basically just treat it like it's a science experiment, because that's all this ever is. And you're going to approach it objectively, and you're going to say, okay, what's my onset time? And everything is fine. And all I'm doing is a little bit of personal inventory and a little bit of psychedelic research. Everything's groovy. It's not going to be too heavy. And then if it wasn't enough, instead of trying to add more paper to it, so let's say you started with a quarter and now you're like, well, that wasn't enough. And so you try to add another quarter to hit my half. It's not good science now, because we can't tell what the dosage was for future reference.
See, here's what's nice though. The paper is of a quality that a half a hit would be plenty, because I, with a tolerance, have felt where a half a hit is, and I'm going, man, if I didn't have
Robert's
here. My tolerance, if I didn't have this tolerance, cheers, Robert. What's up, brother?
We were just referencing you.
Yeah, exactly. Because like of this quality, you can feel where that half a hit is like, all right. If I didn't have this tolerance, I'd probably have visuals. This would be in the visual range. This is probably like 100 mics, 80 to 100 mics is probably where this is at. And because of tolerance, it's dulled way down.
Do you think that your worry and like so much like attention to the dosage level and all that it might actually be inhibiting you from getting the visuals? Like you're consistently worrying about something else instead of letting your mind just open up?
No, because once it's down the hat, I mean, I always have good experiences. I need to knock on wood. I have been having good experiences. Experiences have been good. I've even been, wanting to up dose, and like I keep doses mostly low for conservation purposes, but and for not building up the tolerance, because that can be a motherfucker when you're trying to chase. Yeah, when you're trying to chase the dose, and it helps her also. So we kind of have a dual supply. But the thing that I like is keeping the dose low so that I don't build the tolerance. Although once in a while it is nice to have just like a chill out. We don't get to go camping. We don't get to do anything. So there's like tripping or like getting to that point really isn't in like our evening plans ever. Like microdosing, maybe like upping the dose a little bit, going on a bike ride, doing stuff like that, vegging out, getting the munchies, that type of stuff, but not like let's say introspective thought and any of that kind of stuff, because
that's not some people's gig, man. Some people don't want to do that, and that's perfectly okay too.
And I've been to that realm with whatever it was, whether it was fake or real or whatever it was kind of like, oh, all right, so I kind of saw what I could see, and that's cool. I like you said, I don't really need to go back to that spot.
There you go.
having trails, tracers, and the fun, because what comes, it's not just the visual that goes with it, it's the interest, it's the thought. And I shouldn't say introspective, it's the creative thought that goes along with it. It's the visual acuity that goes with that dose.
Can you give us an example of the thought thing before we slide off
I guess
are they overly intricate?
Oh, like Doc Ellis hitting his no-hitter, or just like how like I hit the Kadama 3 times in a row, landed the Kadama on the peg 3 times in a row.
There's an old callback too.
You could almost mentally and physically match time and space by slowing it down with your reflex reaction time and things like that. Like you can get connected when you're in this point where
cannabis does that for me.
Yeah, when you get
to learn these Jedi techniques,
visuals, have that kind of a dose, and you get into that space to where I was watching this thing today. They call it these like 3 different like points of mentality. You get one of them like when you're like entering dream and you hit like theta mindset. You're like alpha, beta, theta. Like basically we're all in beta all the time. And like when you meditate, you get in like this alpha mindset, and then when you're getting into dream mode, and you get like, you know how like, have you ever had an epiphany right when you're falling asleep? Say Einstein used to do, or not, was it Einstein? Thomas Edison, or one of those two guys would hold a steel ball in his hand, and I use my grinder, and have a steel bowl beneath him, and take his midday nap and lay there on the point of right when you're about to verge to fall asleep.
Drop it on the plate.
It would drop on the plate, and you'd wake up. And there's that point where you have a dream that lasts for like a split second, but in your mind, it's like 2 hours. Like you're going through a whole thing. You kind of go to that place in a dose of psychedelic. That's probably the best way that I could compare psychedelics, because it's almost like this epiphany state to where answers just spontaneously come to you, maybe even questions come to you to which you need an answer, things like that. But for some reason, there's a state between the microdose and the high dose that is like this almost state of intuition of sorts. At least for me, I kind of get. And so I kind of like to use that towards things like creativity, thinking, like you said, Skilbo, even good time for journaling, things like that.
See, I think it might be because I fucked with a lot of meditation shit since I've been like 20, 21, something like that. So to me, I've already done all of that, that heavy introspective fucking thinking shit, and done it for so long that I'm kind of good. And I don't have those issues with myself, but I recognize that that's probably not as common, you know. Everyone comes to these for their own reasons, you know. Maybe, you know, like in the beginning, it was all about the rage, and the mainstream was, wow, these people in Silicon Valley, they're using psychedelics in, you know, small amounts, and wow, you know, and it became kind of a thing, and it's brought more people to it. But I think that there are multiple ways that you can integrate these into your life and your practice. And it doesn't have to do with dosage or very specific things like, well, it has to be this or it has to be that.
All right, let's I want to keep segueing into the topic, because I don't want this to be one of those what are they called,
super long shows,
clickbait shows.
Clickbait, yeah, Red, that's exactly what people think they are going to get with us, is clickbait. The show is about the show, which is about the show. We'll get around to the topic.
The title of the show did say How to Change Your Mind, and
we're still scratching around it.
And so Netflix has recently released a new documentary style film.
4-part series.
It is a 4-part series, 4 different drugs that each series discusses. And what it is called How to Change Your Mind. The title, How to Change Your Mind. Now, some of you may know of the author, Micheal Pollan. He has written many, many books. He has like 5 or maybe more best-selling novels, best-selling New York Times novels. He used to be a writer in a couple garden magazines. I think that's how he started out. He would write editorials for garden magazines. He's a long-time gardener, and he's a fan of plants, and he's a fan of how the plants act on our bodies and our minds. And you know, he has lots of books about the diet and things like, you know, eating plants. And so you know, some of his books are pretty wild. His most recent book is, I think, called Your Mind on Plants. I'm not sure if I think I had the title in the title of the show. I think it's called This Is Your Mind on Plants, or Your Mind on Plants, or something like that. And that covers, I think, 3 or 4 basic substances, but both cultural and political stances. You know, opium, because you can legally cultivate opium poppies, but once you harvest the sap and the resin from opium, it becomes a controlled substance. So we get into these weird waters politically, not legally, and then you get into weird waters politically because, well, I mean, geez, look at how many wars and things like that have been fought over opium. Pharmaceutical companies have it controlled, this, that, and the other. So, and then the other is caffeine. His stance on caffeine, not necessarily stances on caffeine, more just the cultural and economic phenomena that is caffeine. I mean, it's too big to shut down. You can't shut down the coffee.
Starbucks.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? And I could really go on a tangent with that. I'm not going to. But most people don't consider coffee or caffeine a drug, and it is. It very much so is. But it's completely legal and just just kind of it's slid under the rug of our cultural perception of drug use and consuming and addiction at that.
Well, I don't know what the proper terminology or the definition of it is, but it would seem to me in a layman's way that a drug would be anything that you could introduce to the body that would have an effect.
In many definitions.
Maybe that's not completely correct and you can poke holes in it, but there's going to be a pretty wide net that's going to catch things.
That's pretty much the definition. I'm pretty sure that's what Hamilton Morris defined a drug as, and in his chemistry work and everything.
In that case, like food.
And I get into that a lot, where food, yes, everything in that case.
Really good food can give you endorphins and serotonin.
So he talks about caffeine, opium, and mescaline. And because mescaline was one of the first psychedelics that was researched, and there's some pretty heavy political stuff going on with that. When you get into the Native Americans having rights to its use and having the ability to have land, and I think they only have like a mere 605 acres to protect peyote, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on, right? So Micheal Pollan, that's his most recent book. But prior to that, in like 2018, like he was on Rogan with Joe Rogan, with his first book's announcement and stuff like that, which is How to Change Your Mind. Now, what Micheal Pollan goes at this as being a 50-something-year-old person who has limited experience. I don't think he's a complete beginner with psychedelics. I think he may have like had LSD as a teenager or early 20-something, something. Don't quote me on any of this. But he gets whiff of what's going on in John Hopkins research, MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, led by
I've got that shirt,
Rick Doblin, and all the stuff that they've been doing over the last 30 years. God, I think that started out back maybe when I was born, like 84. Maybe it's older than me. Excuse me. So Pollan's been hip to all this research since, and he's been seeing all of the benefits happening between patients with PTSD, depression, addiction, and all this other stuff. And yet all of these substances that are helping people have these red fine tape or fine lines because of their legal status, their Schedule 1 narcotics, according to the government and most people that you talk to, because of that conversation that we had last week about the two polarities, where you're either you don't do drugs at all or you're a complete addict. Nobody looks at the in between. We have all of these issues today where it's impossible for people to even think to try to do an illegal substance to help themselves, what is currently illegal anyways, to help themselves, because they think
everybody that uses caffeine is a functional addict.
Functional addict, big time, right? So getting little small bits of information like that out to people is kind of what Micheal Pollan has slowly been doing in his books. Now, how to change your mind, he takes psilocybin and he takes, I believe, LSD. And in the movie, in the documentary, there are 4 substances they talk about. The first substance is, I think, LSD, and then psilocybin, and then MDMA, and then mescaline. And so they go into each one of these in the documentary in sort of a good, decent detail. But they kind of talk about how each one of those substances is helping people. They go through a brief history, of course. I've talked about the history of LSD and Albert Hoffman. I've talked about the history of MDMA and Socio-Cultural, Alexander Shulgin bringing back the recipe. And I've talked about the history of mescaline a little bit and how some of its research was done back in the early 1900s. And basically, Pollan goes through all of this information in his book. And to be honest, I've gotten some of my information, or at least resourced some of my information, through his past books as well. Because he's got all his stuff nicely cited. Now, what is really cool about his book, How to Change Your Mind, is he's coming from a mid to late 50-something-year-old person. Positive vibes incense. I like that, Skilbo. What's the kind of smell like? Floral? Sweet?
Yeah, it's a Sacha brand.
Chacha? I like it.
Yeah, I like their shit.
I like it. So he's normalizing this to our older community, our middle-aged community, we'll call it, right? The community of those that are, kind of in that generation where, they've smoked cannabis. They understand cannabis is medicinal, but they're still, on the fence because they're still part of the Nancy Reagan era. They have all of this propaganda beaten into their heads. So he's from this era, but a much more objective stance, to where he's actually listening to the science behind. He's listening to what would be therapeutic studies and all of this other stuff that's actually out there. And then he went and he researched it on his own. He did a LSD trip. He sought out a therapist, and he did it the right way. He went through treatment centers and stuff like that, or he sought out a shaman and did it that way. Sourced his stuff as responsibly as he could, and then went through his ceremonies and did his thing. And then he wrote a book about it. And in good detail, it talks highly about how these substances can really help people. And it really does cater that information towards the older generation, which is awesome.
While you've been talking about that, I was thinking to myself, what is it that these have done for me? And one thing that I believe that they do is, I feel like they really can give you a boost in empathy and open-mindedness. And I think those are both critical skills that everyone could really use a little bit more of.
Not only that, is he's trying to preach this to the older crowd, and we got to think of some of the things that are taking out the older crowd: degenerative brain diseases, Alzheimer's. These mushrooms, these psychedelics, are the only things that we're finding that are actually rebuilding these neural pathways and whatnot. We've even heard talks of certain Alzheimer's patients regaining function because of microdosing.
They also have used psilocybin to help terminal patients kind of come to grips with things and to find inner peace.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And that was some of the initial research that MAPS
long time ago.
When John Hopkins first got on board with it, it was because of that. It was that right there. It was because of that, and cancer, terminal, any terminal patients coming to grips, or just to see what types of benefits, I think, had something to do with it. But it was more or less for their mental stability throughout the entire process. And what they were finding was, more than none, people were coming to terms with their end of life a lot easier with going through these. And these, I think they were using higher doses for people. They were giving them higher trips. And so
higher doses, and they were guided as well.
Guided experience. That's a good point. guided experience and allowing people to really come to terms with what was happening. Because a lot of people were really not so much afraid of themselves, but they're also fearful of their families and what's going to go on, but they would come to terms with it. I don't know what happens, what goes on in people's minds or how they find out, but sometimes you just you need to step back and look at everything around you. And psychedelics have a way of giving you an out-of-body experience, and by that I mean you actually kind of feel like you've stepped back and you're like looking at yourself. I've heard that from a few people.
Sometimes people think that that's like a real, like you should see yourself from a distance. Like, no, it's not like that at all. It's to be a bit disengaged from your extreme inability to look outside of your own self-interest.
Yeah.
What do you think, Becca?
It stops the like little self-conscious thoughts, kind of just like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Does it make you nicer to yourself?
Sure. I'm not very mean to myself though, so
Hell yeah, that a girl. You have a very sunny disposition.
there's no need to be mean to yourself.
Exactly.
Everyone else is not really, but the world, you know.
Mhm.
It's lots of pressure.
Yeah, G. Patrick was asking if there's any work being done with Parkinson's. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm kind of figuring out what exactly that does to you. But I mean, like most conditions, it's normally like a misfiring in the body or some kind of misfiring in the brain. And what we're preaching here with the use of cannabis and psychedelics, it's just opening up those pathways and letting your body do the things it's supposed to do. So if it's some kind of misfiring in the body, it probably does help.
Yeah, I feel like I heard something that was it Michael J. Fox? Was he on the side with cannabis research with that or not? Because he's a Parkinson's patient.
Oh, okay. So I do kind of understand what it
It's
is.
a neurological thing. Yeah, it's definitely a neurological thing. It affects your entire motor function of your body.
But that's where that ability to possibly be able to repair the brain and the synapses and to regenerate is just so fucking exciting.
Yeah,
I was talking to you guys in chat, not on the show, but for Polarity Science. And I was saying how I have some of the Stamets 7 powder still. And I already have these Wallengongs that are ground up. And I have the 000 capsules and the press and everything else. And I'm really trying to think about what kind of ratios I want to use and mixing the psilocybin with the other beneficial. Now, these are not fruiting bodies. These are from mycelium, but you got to start somewhere. Be nice to your guts, be nice to your mind, be nice to your psyche, be nice to your soul. It all works together.
Yeah, that's a rough one, man. My grandmother is actually, her birthday is at midnight. Shout out to her.
Shout out Grandma Red.
She's of the age where she has dementia. We're gonna go visit her for her birthday, and we have to go visit her at her caretaker's home. And it's to that point, and you can kind of think it happens to a lot of people. We don't really.
It happens as we age. As you start to approach 80, I think that becomes more prevalent.
Happens to a lot of us, and I like listening. I don't want to be the one preaching. I want to give the information to where you can do your own objective research. And Paul Stamets has some great talks on how psilocybin with the combination of lion's mane is medically treating people with dementia and Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. Other, would you say, autoimmune diseases. he treated his mother as a third party. He has a very, very cool story. I'll talk about this Paul Stamets story for a minute.
The joint.
I'll hand you the joint. Paul Stamets told his mother that there was a good, Paul Stamets' mother calls him. She had a breast cancer. One of her breasts was, 4 times the size of the other. And by the time she got to it, I think that she was already at stage 4, made its way to the lymph nodes, the whole 9.
Yeah, man.
They had her, basically doing all of her end of life stuff. And she found, I think it was online or something, that there was her doctor told her about a study. Her doctor referred her to a study, the University of Washington or wherever the study was at, PNW. And it just so happened to be a study that Paul Stamets was working on with, I believe, turkey tail mushroom. And they were using turkey tail mushroom tincture. And he goes, and she tells Paul about this study and whether or not she should, and was asking his advice on whether or not he should do it. And Paul said, well, actually, that's my study. Yes, you should do that. Do it.
Study.
Yeah, like do it. And so she does it, and she ends up, they end up clearing her cancer.
Oh shit.
I don't know I think he uses the words remission, and I'm pretty sure she came out of it, and I'm unsure if she's still alive today. But the turkey tail is kind of what he believes is what reversed her prognosis there.
Where I have a fucking tincture of that, of turkey tail. Shout out to Shay for that.
And that's not a psychoactive mushroom.
No. It's totally fucking healthy.
That's a healthy.
Look, I may be a kind of stereotypical stoner, but I don't want to get blown out all the time. I do have to think about my health.
Well, I think of the synergies or just, the protective health of all of these substances. And I look at things like maybe the psychoactive feedback that you get from that as a side effect, right? So you have these supplements, you think of them as vitamins. Maybe we shape them like, Barney Rubble, and we shape them like good old Fred and Flintstone, and, we call them, Flintstone.
6 million strong and growing.
Yeah, exactly. And let's just pretend they're supplements, and they just so happen to contain a tiny little bit of lion's mane mushroom, neuroprotective, a little bit of psychoactive. Oh, it is psychoactive, but not in this dose. It's not psychoactive in this small of a dose, right? You eat 3 of them and you might get a little hoo-hoo, but don't eat 3,
Just, how's that go again? Hoo-hoo.
Right? It's so that's what we're going to start seeing is the new thing. You don't need to get the psychoactive effect to get the benefits. Of psilocybin.
Yeah, man.
You just need to get it in there and let it do its job. Think that LSD is active at 10 micrograms. That's such a small, you can't fathom the tiniest, you can't see it. You can't see 10 micrograms. So that's how small that is. Yet you can feel it if you took that amount of substance. Now, if you took half of that, 5 micrograms, maybe you wouldn't even feel it, know it's there, but it could just so happen, sneak its way into your neurological pathways to where whatever's bothering you doesn't. That's just so, I don't know how it works. I'm not the person who's doing the research on this stuff. Check out the research on MAPS and John Hopkins, and Paul Stamets, he's got some awesome articles on actual brainwave research and all that cool stuff. Hamilton Morris, on his Hamilton Pharmacopoeia, they have a real cool thing where they show the brain lit up on LSD. That's really cool. And it is slightly different than the brain lit up on psilocybin. And that's the last episode of, they call it Ultra LSD. Whether or not it's a new analog of LSD or not, it's molecule LSD, and it does, it lights up your synapse. You're using all of your brain pattern. Normally we're just using small little parts of our brain at most regular times. So you talk about these things that could either stimulate new neural growth or at least allow you to function at a high rate for a short period of time, whether it be 6 hours or 10 hours, depending on dose and substance. I mean, there's benefits to it, large and wide, you know. I think what Micheal Pollan is doing is great because he's normalizing it, because it's in the New York Times. You know, he's going to be on Oprah. You know, they're going to be talking about all this stuff. It's going to be the new
thing anymore.
Oh, and Oprah's not a thing. Whatever the new daytime thing is, you know, it's going to be on it. You know,
There's not a thing anymore. I didn't even know.
I didn't know either.
I guarantee that there's
Oprah.
microdosing.
Who's the new Oprah?
Yeah,
It's like Drew Barrymore, Kelly Clarkson.
Oh, got it, Drew.
Kelly Clarkson has a show. Good Lord.
Uh-huh.
God, I don't pay attention to daytime television.
I just
anymore.
see it on like Instagram.
That means you follow them on Instagram.
People still have TV.
What are you eating over there?
The shop now does. You say it. Your friends does it, and then the shop now pop up.
No, reels. You don't follow those people.
All the reels come through.
Now everybody that's
Man,
A lot of pumpkin seeds at the moment.
she got into
nice.
the
stash.
Because I ate all the like
Should I do her
walnuts and
omega-6s lately.
chocolate. I can't find any more chocolate.
We need chocolate.
But yeah, there's also like dried cranberries and cherries and blueberries,
Nice and healthy.
almonds.
Red, it's been a good show so far.
I'm liking the
I think
direction.
we've covered all the bases, I think.
Yeah, well, definitely check out the Soil Food Web Education channel, because they're doing some really good stuff. They're giving these free seminars, guys, from world-renowned experts on the biology of what's beneath our feet, which, you know, whether or not it's going to help you out physically or mentally. I mean, honestly, like having a little garden, it started really small and it kind of became overly addicting. You know, it was one of those things where I was like, oh,
Becca's fishing for something.
Dude, it won't come out.
She wants to down in the
One specific one, right? Like, get out.
Chocolate.
She's a little chocolate.
Oh, there's a piece of chocolate in there.
Yeah,
Ooh, piece of candy.
M&M and the Trails Mix.
this one we had, all right, dude, speaking of all the crap in food, this one we had was chocolate flavored or whatever
Chocolate flavoring.
chocolate flavored bits. They weren't even real chocolate
Bits.
they were chocolate flavored dots or whatever the hell they call them. Come on, what is the chocolate flavoring? What is this natural flavoring crap? I heard the other great thing that I heard on the on that channel today was that when somebody asked him if it was organic, right? If your food was organic, and then his response was, "Name me food that is inorganic." I think that's a great one. Name me some.
Parmesan cheese with its sawdust.
I like that, Skilbo. I still said it's organic though, because it's sawdust.
Well, it was a tree. I guess it was organically growing trees.
Parmesan cheese.
How about macaroni and cheese? The packet of cheese that comes with it, that couldn't have been alive at some
There's
point.
no way that that's organic. Yeah, that's certainly no. What you got?
We have some of that.
We
can
got
back.
Annie. We're gonna do that.
Oh, we got fancy Annie's fucking organic mac and cheese. Well, la-ti-da.
That's the good stuff with the shapes.
No,
The
they're-
shapes, the rabbits.
Because it has the shapes, it holds the cheese, man.
It's the rabbits.
The white cheddar shells.
Okay.
Cheddar.
Oh yeah, we're getting
Cheddar is better.
another
I'm
show.
hungry now.
Fucking starving, man.
Oh,
I was
What the
craving
hell are we doing?
2 boxes.
I'm over here like, damn,
Well-
can I get a couple of
you know how I
Oh,
said
my
that? You know I said that one political word earlier.
Nope, we don't remember what it was, and that's good. Nope, we're good on it.
So check this one out. There's a lot more foods coming out with mealworm protein, and a lot more food coming out with because you know soy's got a bad name already. Soy's got the bad rep. You can't eat soy unless it's fermented. You know, guys, it's not good for men at least.
Because it causes you to produce estrogen.
Yes, it causes your testosterone to, I think, either be depleted or it to be converted
Plummet.
to get converted to estrogen. Soy in most raw form, and also
But like
soy
a lot.
ingredients.
You have to have a lot. It's okay.
I don't know how much, but I would imagine that
We do our research on the fly here on Polarity Side.
So anyways, If you do soy products, soy sauce, stuff like that, fermented soy, it's best to ferment it. It's something to do with maybe there's an enzyme or maybe there's a metabolite or something that needs to get fermented out of it.
You know what I've been seeing a lot of lately? Fermented pickles in water.
Oh, that's great for you. Fermented pickles and water. Interesting. Oh, so no acid used. Yeah, it is pickling season, and that's a great one too.
I've been meaning to tell you.
If you're going to use water, you got to use a pressure cooker. You got to take your shit up into like the 250 range to kill your bacteria. Otherwise, you use vinegar, and then you can use a boiling pot and just do basic boiling.
Fermented foods are where it's at when it comes to probiotics. I mean, I know we're all about our booch and whatnot, but you're eating some good fermented food, it's the levels of probiotics inside that are going to dwarf a bottle of booch.
Yeah, dude. You're going to get indigenous microorganisms. What's going to come out of there big time.
That's what IMO stands for.
IMO does stand for indigenous microorganisms. And so basically it's stuff that's in the area around you, where you have a good, healthy system of plants that's not being fed by fertilizers and stuff. It's growing naturally in that area. There's good indigenous microorganisms. So that's a good place to harvest them. You can either stick a little box of rice down in the soil and harvest them that way, or you can, I think there's ways of just putting like a bucket of water. You just put a bucket of water out, and it'll let it go through the nitrogen cycle. It might get some algae in it or some shit. Put it in the shade, but it'll harvest indigenous microorganisms on its own. I don't know.
That's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Just go grab some leaf litter.
Oh yeah, I think that's what you do. Yeah, you put leaf litter in the water. I think that's something you do. Put a little leaf litter. But yeah, leaf litter also. Leaf litter's got it. Some people were talking about taking leaf litter and putting that in capsules and eating it. I think I heard Fluff talking about that on Caribou or something the other day.
That's actually my new technique because I'm slowly going to get my goby collection going, and I focus mostly on the Stiphodon species that eat microorganisms and biofilm and all that good stuff. And I'm basically just going to feed them with leaf litter. Just going to throw in a little handful every few weeks. It'll bring in natural microlife to the tank. Good to go.
Oh yeah. Yeah, dude. There's some good stuff that you can do if you just have yourself access to. I mean, in Michigan, if you live in Michigan, you have access to state parks. You have access to all kinds of stuff. I mean, you might get asked what you're doing with the box if you're trying to bury it in the woods.
What are you doing?
I mean,
what's in the box?
Fucking be honest.
Damn kids.
Fucking
Rice.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a ranger, just be fucking honest. They'll either tell you no or just hide. Don't let them see you.
Because that doesn't gonna make them call the fuzz on us. There you go, running across the fucking state park with a shovel in hand, booking like,
run.
You'll never take me alive.
Throw your wooden box of rice and run.
No, that's where your pocket sand comes in handy, bro.
I
your everyday carry.
If I got walked up on by a ranger, they're like, "What are you doing?" Well, I have a garden and I'm burying my box of rice. I'm collecting indigenous. They'd probably think I was
do it under the moonlight, Red. Harvest under the moonlight.
Crazy
in your ghillie suit.
He's high on something.
High on life. Baby.
What the hell are you doing?
Guys, I ate all the good things out of this.
I know we've watched. We're all starving to death watching you eat. We're like,
I feel like a bird.
A bird.
Seeds left. Have a good night's sleep. Eat all those. Man, I forgot the word that I was going to use earlier.
The word is the bird.
Man,
well,
it's not processed, right? Processing. When we're pickling, we're processing. It's I don't want to say added. It's a word starts with the I, and I can't think of it. But it's a word used like when you see it on like a box. You'll see it on a box of food.
Describe it.
It means like processing. It's like it's I don't want to say it's a synonym for processing, but it was close to my head, but it's almost like because processing basically isn't a bad thing, right? Not all processed foods are bad, because like you said, pickles are great for you, and that's processing. We do a lot of processing all the time, so it's a matter of what it is that you kind of processing or making from processing. And fuck, the word was with an I, and I can't think of it. So, anyways, oh well, whatever. Bruce Hornsby.
Bruce Hornsby.
Give me some range, baby. Give me some range.
Man. Listen to the mandolin rain.
It's been raining pretty good here on us.
I didn't know it was gonna rain.
I don't either. We got a nice little feeding of water, nitrogen, whatever's up in the sky, a little acid rain.
Look up in the sky.
Little 6-year-old brother goes to a bunch of little kids, and I was standing in there too on his birthday party. And he goes, "Do you guys know that there's acid rain?" Were you there?
It wasn't your brother, it was one of his friends. He was like,
This little kid was
there was
talking
two
about acid
kids.
rain.
Yeah, there were two kids. He was like, there's acid rain, and it'll like, what do you say? It'll melt cars and houses and stuff like that.
Hey, it turned the Statue of Liberty green.
It's like, whoa.
Sorry, tangent.
Well, anything less than a 7 pH technically would be acidic, right?
Sure.
So if
Start
rain
sliding towards that side of the scale. Yeah, 7 is neutral.
so I'm curious where rainwater falls at. I have to check some at about 68, 70 degrees. Go collect some rainwater now, actually. Might not be a bad experiment.
It's gonna be all pooled in our cushions.
But no, rainwater will collect some nitrogen and
Some mosquitoes.
another good source. It'll grow some mosquitoes. Dude, I think we're gonna start a small fish farm, like you're talking
Feed
about.
them mosquitoes.
Oh, man.
Get ourselves fed, man.
Aquaponics.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, can't necessarily have Cornish cross hens. We can't have our own meat birds because, well,
Meat birds.
That's illegal, of course. You can't, we have a big enough yard to have 25 birds every 60 days, in the summertime. That'd be great. We could get
Throw some bread out. You'll draw 25 seagulls.
50 birds in the freezer by the end of summer, dude, if we were allowed. But no, we're not allowed. So we're going to try to get a couple hundred fish in the freezer by the end of summer. Tilapia.
What kind of species?
Tilapia. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking if we start fry in like February indoor, right? Similar to like cannabis starts, stuff like that. If we start them indoor, we get a couple of months while they're real small, and then we can get them into an outdoor pond with a heater, say April, May, and then let them do their thing. They'll be ready to harvest at the end of 60 days from February. They'll be ready to harvest.
That's their flowering time is 60 days.
Yeah, dude. No, what's super cool is I've
fast flowering
figuring
fish.
out there's the
Humans auto flower fish.
We're surrounded. We are absolutely surrounded with 60-day.
He doesn't listen. He doesn't care.
We're so surrounded. We're surrounded with 60-day crops, man. Cannabis flower cycles is 60-day flowering crop. You can grow tilapia in 60 days. You can grow hens in 60 days.
You can grow a mighty fine beard in 60 days, bro.
Species of lettuce in 60 days.
You stroking your beard back there?
There's most of your good root crops are 60-day crops. Yeah, I like it. Abolish the talk about 60-day hibernation.
Pushed him over the edge. Yeah, he's fighting sleep. He said it's out past his bedtime.
Me too, but I guess it's
just did he take off? Is that what he did?
No, he's still here.
He just went to the bathroom real fast. He had to spark.
Who knows? I bet he'll tell us when he gets
I don't
back.
want him to lose out on the exit. Well, we'll just wait for him to get back. We got a good
back down. It would be okay. I promise.
Listening to you figure things out loud
on the fly.
It's pretty funny.
Working through it, man.
How the brain works is fun, isn't it?
Well, before we segue out of here, I do want to say thanks to everybody for hanging out with us this evening. Hopefully you came over from the Prohibition show. And if you watched that, they are going to invite Red and Becca to be the primary guest on that.
I
So
saw
that's
that.
going to be pretty cool.
Oh, we'd be happy to join.
You know, the R&B
Yeah.
is going to go to the Prohibition.
Shoot me the
Hit me with that Smokey Robinson, right?
baby. Shoot me the deets.
Shoot me the deeds.
I'll have my people talk to your people.
He already did. I was talking to him.
Skilbo,
I was already. I'm your people, bro. I set the shit.
Skilbo linked it up.
It's my
Let's see here.
Goofy.
come through on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time over on the Mish Bros Grow Show channel for Wake and Bake with the Growskis. We're going to run that for an hour. And if you're not able to catch it then, you can always catch it and replay. Or you can catch us live again Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Bro Show Live. 2-hour romp, hang out, have some good laughs, good way to end the week. And then come back through Monday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the late sesh. And then you never know where the fuck that's going to go. Hopefully we'll have some flights again and we can get back to flight nights.
Well, we want to get you a couple flights of our stuff.
I definitely am down for it. I will make the drive. Trust me.
Yes, go come on by sometime. We'll have a nice little. We're thinking of having a little garden party in August. We're thinking of doing a little get together, but we don't know.
Well, the deck's all finished now and fancified.
Well, and my lovely mother kind of messed up some planning stuff a couple times.
We're working on it. We're coming through. We're
have a
we're
party in our
flexible.
We're gonna do a day. We're gonna do a day with the parents over because our parents haven't met each other yet. So we gotta let the parents meet. So we're trying to get the house all set up for the parents to meet. We gotta do one of those days.
But you know, we still got 29 people hanging out with us, and that's pretty fucking cool, man. So I hope that everybody has a nice night. Fly over and see what's going on over in Eagle's Nest, and have a chill night with it. That's about it.
Yeah,
Be nice. Be nice to yourself.
Already
Be nice
live.
to other people.
Yep.
I've been vamping the whole time you've been gone because Red couldn't decide if it was okay to end the stream in your absence, abolished.
Man, I heard it ended up being thunder, but I thought some shit fell down outside, so I had to get up real quick.
Thunder. Thundercats. Oh.
Yeah, we just had a little storm roll through, and pretty big.
And
Not
the
too bad.
thunder rolls.
Happy to get the garden.
Cheers, Jeff Ross.
Rain.
So hopefully all of that water didn't just roll off of your precious ground and into the sewers. Hopefully it absorbed into your ground. And if it did roll off into the sewer, get on out there and throw some microbes down and soften up that stuff.
Shake it out.
And I don't know, support your local bookstore and purchase the book How to Change Your Mind. And if you can't get out to go do that, well, I guess worst case scenario, you can try Amazon.
If you can't get out to do that, then oops.
Amazon
Let me
Prime.
go around my cords here.
Listen to Audible. Do that, or it might have a Kindle or version or something. You can probably do it on that. Something.
Our Kindle's still a thing.
And or
If you're of an age, they're a thing. How's that as a callback?
yeah,
God.
because Netflix has that cool new documentary. I mean, you can just watch it, which is pretty cool too. I think we're gonna
Red is walking us right up to the hour change.
the episode Becca. Didn't
The
get a chance
first
to
one
finish.
is on LSD, and I will say, like, everything I've learned from the show was on that first
Good
episode.
source of information.
Like
It's a good
from
source
this
of
show.
information. Yeah.
So I learned some good information thanks to you guys.
No, thanks.
Hey, we actually know a little something.
I
Now we don't know
already
that
know
much.
that. I already
Regurgitating.
knew
I'm
it.
regurgitating information that I hear from a lot of the stuff. I mean, obviously, there's the storyline of Albert Hoffman isn't going to change unless some other weird Mandela effect.
Oh fuck! Here we go with that shit again.
I never know. Maybe somebody else will have been the inventor of LSD.
Sometimes-
If you want to know more about the Mandela effect, go check out the late session this week.
Sometimes
that's
it's hard
great.
to process information from people giving lectures and stuff.
Sure.
So this way, it's a way to learn.
Yeah, talk about it in a more fun
Talk about it, be about it.
an educational way. Yeah. It is an interesting history, man, because it has so much backlash. And what really sucks is that so many people have suffered for so many years, and
Yeah, man.
it doesn't have to be that way in the future. It doesn't have to be that way now. People who are suffering can be healed. It doesn't have to be through this normal system of dumbing it down, putting band-aids on, the band-aid approach that the current health system relies on, because it hasn't changed in the last 50 years, and now it's starting to change.
Damn, Big Ripper.
It's starting to change. So
Okay.
I think that's, when you don't see a change in an industry for, the three to 5 decades, and then all of a sudden there's a huge hike in the upward direction of positive information. I think it's trending. Look into it, man. It might have some good information. So just look into it. Do your own objective research. Check out
Right on.
whatever these new daytime TV shows are.
Check out Oprah's Replacements.
And butt chug responsibly.
Yeah, man.
Pollan on, and or source about yourself. No, but he's a good researcher. I'd say check out Hamilton Morris, people like that, and really Paul Stamets, definitely, if you're interested in other medicinal mushrooms, because Skilbo has some good stuff. That powder, mix up those powders and mix up your other powders and feed it and enjoy. Feed it to your family.
All right, everyone, to the kitchen to make mac and cheese.
To the fucking kitchen.
Cheers, everybody. Have a great night.
Later.